Okay, so we have to talk about the Trump indictment. I know, I tried to avoid it, I really did, but I couldn't. I don't want to spend too much time on it, however, let me know if you think I'm wrong about this. In general, I don't even know if talking about it's worth it, at all. I mean, we're talking about it right now, but just hear me out. Now, what I really mean is that there's no reason to debate people about this. All I'm saying is that really, there's no convincing either side. There's just too much partisanship surrounding it. It is interesting in a way, because I think the key comes down to a fundamental difference in how we view reality. It's really a strange thing. For example, you are not going to convince me that this is not political. And there is no way I'm going to convince others that we have a two-tiered system, two standards. They just cannot be convinced. Now, personally, I think the truth is obvious, but I don't know, we have too much tribalism getting in the way. So just keep in mind, while their case is shoddy, you don't even have to argue Trump's guilt or not. The main point is the selective use of the law based on political motivations. If you are an insider, then you are protected. If you threaten the machine, well then, you become the target. The thing is, even the mere perception of a two-tiered system can have widely destabilizing effects on society, and we are well past that point. The entire foundation of our system is based on trust, and that pact is broken. So, just as an aside, the FBI is saying that the pipe bomber phone data was corrupted, and all I could think was that the phone data is as corrupt as the federal agency that planted the bombs. My point is that trust is gone. However, let's get back to the indictment. We see arguments such as it's not political. Look, even Republicans are denouncing Trump on this and saying that he committed crimes against the nation. Yeah, that's because we have a uniparty. The two-party paradigm doesn't really exist. It's a fabrication, an illusion, a mirage of partiality for smooth brains. There's the establishment, the insiders, and then we have the outsiders. And if you are an outsider, you are targeted. So regardless of what you personally believe about Bernie Sanders, they went after him in 2016 too. Populist movements are forbidden. And the reason being is because the establishment is beholden to special interests in the military-industrial complex. Now, if you haven't watched Tucker Carlson's latest Twitter episode, I believe you should. There's a lot of really great commentary in there, and I do wish I could play it all. However, the most important aspect he mentions is the co-opting of politicians by the military-industrial complex, which of course includes the intel agencies.
The prosecution of Donald Trump is transparently political. He's literally Joe Biden's main political opponent. He's polling over 60% among Republican voters right now. So Joe Biden is doing what no president has ever dared to do. He's using law enforcement to lock up his chief rival. That's happening right now. Anyone who denies it's happening is lying to you. But actually, it's worse than that. Trump's prosecution isn't just political, it's ideological. Nobody with Trump's views is allowed to have power in this country. Criticize our wars and you're disqualified. If you keep it up, we'll send you to prison. That's the message Washington is sending. Not just the Democratic Party is sending, but both parties are sending. Whatever else you say about him, Trump is the one guy with an actual shot at becoming president who dissents from Washington's long-standing pointless war agenda. And for that one fact, they're trying to take Trump out before you can vote for him. And that should upset you more than anything that's happened in American politics in your lifetime. Even if you don't plan to vote for Donald Trump, even if you would die before voting for Donald Trump, which is your right and a lot of good people feel that way, even still, the destruction of our democracy, which is the right of voters to support any candidate they want, even candidates who don't want war with Russia, the destruction of that should keep you up at night. Yes, Donald Trump is a flawed man, but his sins are minor compared to those of his persecutors. In this life, we don't get to choose our martyrs. We can only choose our principles, and America's are at stake.
So, Trump's record on the war stuff is not unblemished. He made a couple bad moves, a couple terrible moves. All I'm saying is that it was clearly better than the war-for-profit crowd. The war-for-profit politicians that we've had, well, forever. Trump's foreign policy was a breath of fresh air compared to these monsters. And I quote, "Trump is the one guy with an actual shot at becoming president who dissents from Washington's long-standing pointless war agenda. And for that one fact, they're trying to take Trump out before you can vote for him." End of quote. So, many people believe this was the exact moment that Trump became persona non grata.
But that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. Governor.
They lied, and they knew they lied. There were no weapons of mass destruction, end of quote. So during his episode, Carlson took numerous jabs at permanent Washington. He noted that its initiatives command $1 trillion price tag, and that those policies have made Washington, D.C.'s surrounding counties the richest suburbs in the world. The former Fox News host argued that the political indictments of Trump represent an American caste system, one in which those in the club get a free pass, while others are relentlessly persecuted. And I quote, "That's the point. If you're on the inside, you're untouchable in this hierarchy, and everybody who works in Washington knows this." End of quote. So he goes on to ask a few very good questions. How many secret documents do you think Dick Cheney took home with him? You know, when he was running the Iraq War. Well, we'll never know the answer because there is no chance Dick Cheney will ever be investigated or have his staffers be told to wear wires in his presence. Dick Cheney is a neocon. Trump is not. Dick Cheney supports war with Russia. Trump does not. And that right there is the difference, end of quote. Now, personally, I think he is so on point with this. In a broader sense, though, the thing is that this two-tier justice system is so clearly evident to some of us that it's ridiculous to consider otherwise. This extends to civilians, too. We have so many examples to pick from, but I don't think we should get off track. Let's stick with politics for right now. So yeah, at this point, I think debating people about the two-tiered system and the establishment corrupt politicians is pretty pointless. If you were having a conversation with someone and they indicate that Hillary Clinton has never committed a crime before, that she's on the up and up, and the rest of it is just noise, lies. Or perhaps they say that the Hunter Biden story doesn't mean anything, there was no corruption, no foreign deals, or perhaps they believe that Joe Biden is a stand-up guy, he never sold out his office. Or if they say he's a great president with your best interest at heart, well then, simply put, slowly back away because you are dealing with a crazy person, disassociated from reality. Or, on the other hand, you're dealing with someone who is maliciously lying for the establishment because they see some kind of political opportunity. So yeah, it's either they're brain dead with very few neurons firing, they are shameless political hacks, or perhaps they've had their brains melted via reinforced delusions perpetuated through algorithmic manipulation. Either way, it's not worth your time, and frankly, my time either. If that's the case, there is simply no way to get through to them. Just move on with your day. However, let's get back to the fundamental difference in how we view reality. The crazy part is that they would say the same things about us too. We are in a very, very weird dynamic. Now to me, it's to the point that it's so obvious, I don't even know what to say. I could spend the next 20 minutes going through the Hillary Clinton cases. How she installed a server in some random basement or bathroom to sidestep record-keeping laws. How she illegally retained thousands of classified materials. How she removed classified markings. She destroyed 33,000 subpoenaed emails. She physically destroyed phones and servers or used BleachBit.
So let's go through the facts. 17,500 emails that she lied about turning over. The server wipe. Within weeks of there being a report that she had a private server, it was wiped. She thought that C, which stands for classified, stood for cookie or something, which stands for classified. She thought that drone strikes are not classified. She said that the reason she used the private server is for convenience, and that she only had one device. She used 13 Blackberries, let me finish, and 5 iPads. At least she doesn't just stick to either Blackberry or iPad. This is somebody who is absolutely disqualified from becoming president. They destroyed Blackberries with hammers in the State Department. That's not what we want the presidency.
Actually,
and
Evan,
hold on.
Can you fact check that? Hang on, Evan Perez. Hammers, fact check that for me, please, on the fly.
Yes, they did, Brooke. As you mentioned, there were 13 devices, mobile devices, and 5 iPads that the FBI said that, in some way were used with her private email server, and they did, in some cases, just destroy them with hammers when they were done using them.
That's
a pretty good way of destroying
a device. That is absolutely not following the rules and regulations of the State Department. You know it. Your 52 reasons just went down to 1.
How she had people without security clearance managing her server, or that she had her maid print out classified stuff for her. Her server security was so bad that it was hacked by foreign nations. The Obama DOJ and FBI colluded, per Lisa Page, to give her a get-out-of-jail-free card because they claim she did not intend to break the law. On that note, Scott Adams said this, and I quote, "According to CNN, there's a big difference between Trump's handling of classified documents versus Hillary's deleted emails, and that difference involves Democrats reading minds and seeing that Hillary Clinton meant no harm. However, Trump, well, he was up to something very, very bad. It is pure propaganda," end of quote. She did not intend to break the law. That's what they say. You know, despite the fact that merely setting up this server in a random basement or bathroom to avoid oversight, well, that in of itself shows intent, doesn't it? Even so, we could go back to the Clinton sock drawer case, and I quote, "The Presidential Records Act allows the president to decide what records to return and what records to keep at the end of his presidency, and the National Archives can't do anything about it. I know this because I'm the lawyer who lost the Clinton sock case," end of quote. Or what about this? The day after he took office, Obama issued an executive order affirming, and I quote, "the right of former presidents to invoke executive privilege in connection with the release of presidential records by the National Archives and Records Administration," end of quote. So yeah, I think the truth is clear. This is strictly political, a hit job. The level of corruption we are dealing with is insane, and I don't know what happens or where we go from here. And with that being said, let's take a look at what's happening with Joe Biden for a moment. So this guy right here, Jack Smith, the political hitman, well, his investigation lasted about 8 months and resulted in charges for Trump. Hunter Biden's case began in 2018. Nothing, no charges. They are simply trying to run the clock out. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the charges against Hunter Biden, well, the statute of limitations is 5 years.
Sarah makes a great point about the Hunter Biden investigation at DOJ. This is preposterous. This has been pending, according to our reporting at CNN, since 2018. 5 years. And this, by the way, this investigation is not the laptop. This investigation is a tax issue. Did Hunter Biden declare his income? And a sort of obscure gun law. Did he possess a gun while he was addicted to drugs, which you're not allowed to do under federal law? Did he lie about that? But 5 years, I mean, that's a 5-week investigation. Somebody, and this spans the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Someone's got to make a call on this case. I don't know what is going on, but it's beyond anything I've seen before.
So yeah, as I said, they're trying to run this clock out. And we're pretty much at that point now, the 5-year mark. This is the two-tiered system at play. If you're on the inside of the establishment, you're going to be covered. However, if you're on the outside of that establishment, well then, they're going to use every tool or tactic to get you. And really, this is all about the upcoming election, lawfare. And for example, just look at how the FBI is protecting Joe Biden regarding his bribes. So, have you heard that some Ukrainian oligarch has 17 recordings about the bribes that the Biden family took? And the intel agencies are doing everything possible to stonewall that revelation. Now, when a journalist asked Joe Biden about this bribe, his answer was something. It was certainly something.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
Where's the money, he says. Well, that's the thing. They actually have the bank transfers. Now, this Burisma executive who is bribing and also blackmailing Joe Biden by holding these phone calls as some kind of insurance policy has also said, and I quote, "Well, he told the FBI that he paid the $5 million bribes to the Bidens through so many different bank accounts that investigators wouldn't be able to unravel this for at least 10 years, end of quote. Now, really, the best way for Trump to get out of this is to offer Democrats a bribe. I mean, as we know, Joe Biden would take that. But you know what's really crazy? Is that Joe Biden and his family sold out the United States of America for a measly $10 million. Now, $10 million is a massive amount of money for guys like me. But to sell out your nation, I mean, come on, $10 million? That's it? That's all it took to destroy an entire country. I mean, come on, Hillary Clinton would have at least got $100 million. Now, I joke about this, but really, I personally wouldn't take any amount of money to sell out my country. And I guess us principled people are the minority. You know, an anomaly. Anyway, let's check out an interesting thread by Kanekoa the Great. It shows a pattern of selective justice. And I quote, "The Bidens collected millions from Ukrainian oligarchs as unregistered foreign lobbyists, worked with the spy chief of China, attempted to broker a $9 billion deal for Vladimir Putin, engaged in money laundering and tax fraud, and the FBI concealed their crimes." Yeah, so this is why they started the Russia-Trump hoax. Now, personally, I think all of this was an on-ramp towards the looming war with Russia, cultivating this anti-Russian notion in the minds of their supporters. And also, this is a tried and true tactic from Saul Alinsky. Accuse your opponents of what you are guilty of. I mean, really, we have Hillary Clinton and Uranium One, which, of course, she was selling uranium to Putin for $100 million, or whatever it was. We have the Bidens brokering $1 million deal with Putin, and these are the ones who are colluding with Russia. Hunter Biden admitted in his own words that he gave half of his salary to Joe Biden over the last 3 decades. There are at least 459 documented crimes found on Biden's laptop, including money laundering, tax fraud, and more, which the FBI has had since December 2019. In this text exchange with Hunter Biden, this came out in 2019 by the way, he says this: "The retaliation of the Chinese in the ouster and arrest of U.S. suspected CIA operatives inside China." So let's talk about this for a second because I have a few questions. Is Hunter Biden referring to that time that China found and executed over 20 CIA agents? Hunter Biden acknowledges in his own words that he works for Chinese intelligence. The DOJ convicted his business partner for being a Chinese spy after the Biden family collected millions as unregistered foreign agents. And I quote, "My representation of the fucking spy chief of China," end of quote.
Another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the fucking spy chief of China. You started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the fucking largest fucking LNG port in the world.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China?
My representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the fucking spy chief of China.
So yeah, the Bidens worked with the spy chief of China. They brokered a $9 billion deal for Vladimir Putin and got paid millions to spread China's Belt and Road Initiative. They did all of this as unregistered foreign agents while laundering millions and committing tax fraud. So, in response, the FBI arrested Trump. Yeah.
America, you are so lucky to have him as your president. I don't know anybody who really, truly works harder for you, for the American people.
Everything is so insane. It kind of feels like we're living out some dystopian nightmare.
If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Okay, so let's go back and talk about if the Trump indictment is all about the military-industrial complex. As Tucker Carlson asserted, if you oppose the permanent war machine, you become the target. So, personally, I think he's right about that, but there's more to it. It's not just about him stopping the war machine. It's about every corrupt practice they use. Their entire system has been corrupted through and through, and it's to the point that the system itself revolves around corruption. Look, they build careers off of it. Legacies, vast amounts of personal wealth, pensions, all of it, and don't forget the nepotism. So, as I said, the reasons vary. Some believe in global government, the power that the Great Reset will give them, the government contracts to the private sector through public-private partnerships. Some of the intel agency guys believe that the US dollar, or the future digital dollar, needs to be the global reserve. In response, they position these global wars for economic power. Some use it for their own personal wealth and power, a la the Bidens or the Clintons. And of course, the nepotism applies here as well. Others within the middle ranks just want to preserve their pensions and salaries, so they follow bullshit orders. Military guys, I guess they're in it for the legacy, or stock options from Raytheon. Or perhaps they just believe the concept presented in this quote. It makes no difference what men think of war. War endures. You might as well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. My point is simple. The reasons vary, but the constant is corruption itself. This is exactly why they target American citizens, populists, both left and right alike. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you reside on. If you're an individualist, hold principles dearly. If you actually have a moral compass, well then you, you are the enemy. Truth and justice threatens their very existence. A revelation within the broader US population regarding their deceit and treasonous actions, that right there is their true foe. If people begin to realize the extent of this, their power is gone. The revolution becomes inevitable. Now, here comes my contradiction. At the very beginning, I said it was pretty pointless to argue with tribalists about this topic. However, as I said, let me contradict myself and offer some hope. We've talked about this before. This is from my video on the polycrisis of doom. However, the commentary applies here as well. You know, a lot of their deception revolves around manipulation. It's the main reason we see them push this divide and conquer policy so much. They have to keep us distracted and fighting with each other. They can't have people on the left realize that they have the same problems with the people in charge as the people on the right, and vice versa. We all have the same problems, and our problems are the people who are actually running the system. They have to keep a true populist uprising from happening. Hence the identity politics and, all the other bullshit. It's kind of like the cave dwellers watching shadows on the wall. We are transfixed by controlled illusion, leaving us blind to reality. We will never see what is in front of our eyes unless we look in the right direction. Their corruption is why they seek to shut down the free and open exchange of ideas. They cannot afford to have the masses realize what is really happening. And slowly but surely, we are. We are being farmed by a parasitic bunch of robber barons and grifters whose whole empire is built on one underlying premise. We trust their authority. Without that trust, the foundation for their entire corrupt system begins to falter. Now it is going to be chaotic, but that trust has already collapsed. What comes next is anyone's guess. So while I often speak of revolution, I know for a fact that we don't need to engage in a bloody revolution to build a better future. That's not what I'm about. No. What I'm talking about is a revolution of thought. We just need to realize the true nature of our immense power. This is why I hold out hope for the masses, the left and the right alike, that they will eventually snap out of their manufactured illusions, that they will snap out of their hypnotic trance, and finally realize that they have to come together, all sides of the political spectrum, to root out corruption and to ensure that our representatives actually represent us. I mean, is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Because if we come together, that's our true immense power. As we have talked about, this is the reason why identity politics is all the rage. It's a perfect tool for division. If we set aside the games and realize that our issues are with the establishment and not with each other, well then we can get real change. But somehow, at the moment, they have a lot of useful idiots running around as enforcers for the regime, dogmatically adhering to their tribe, no matter what. We are not going to get anywhere with that mentality. In order for us to realize our true political power, well, we will have to finally accept that obedience is not a virtue. And I know, obedience to authority is not some new problem that we face. But the scale of ambition and the technological capability of the parasite establishment class is. That right there is a new problem. Anyway, approximately 500 years ago, Etienne de la Boetie explored the politics of obedience, and he wrote that obedience is truly a monstrous vice. It allows us to indulge in the luxury of convenience and to renege easily on our duty to take responsibility for our own lives and actions. However, this individual had a solution. Yes, Etienne de la Boetie's solution was as true then as it is now. Resolve to serve no more, and you are at once freed. Once again, this is HelioWave. If you like the content, like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you want to. If you're in a position to, consider subscribing on Locals or Subscribestar. As always, make sure you disobey those true fascistas, and yes, I do hope you have a good night.